A blaster with no heroic story. A sidearm that's fairly standard, but also one that stands out once you see it. The Commando DC-15S sidearm. What problem did it solve? And is it a missed opportunity? Every army has its elites, and these elites need weapons built for the worst case scenario. Manufactured by Blastech Industries, the DC-15S sidearm was issued to clone commandos as a last resort companion to the DC-17M interchangeable weapon system. And when they went behind enemy lines at the first Battle of Geonosis, it was a lifesaver. This is partly due to the fact that when it was designed, the Republic High Command had a special requirement for this weapon. Classed as a blaster pistol, the DC-15S sidearm falls into a category of one-handed weapons designed to balance compact size with sufficient stopping power. With the DC-15S, this philosophy was taken a step further. The pistol itself was compact, small enough to be carried in a holster without hindering movement. Weighing approximately 1 kilogram, it added no meaningful burden to an already heavy commando loadout. Although the DC-15S fired charged plasma bolts energized by Tibanna gas, it did not rely on a conventional replaceable energy pack. Instead, it seems to be paired with a regulated self-charging system. In practical terms, the weapon could fire up to 7 shots in quick succession before entering an automatic recharge cycle, restoring 1 shot per second until its full charge was reached once again, and this cycle could continue indefinitely. While the internal power cell did possess a finite total energy capacity, it was never intended to be exhausted during normal combat use. For the operator in the field, the distinction was effectively meaningless. The weapon always came back online. To keep the operator informed of the weapon's charge state, the DC-15S incorporated a rear-mounted charge indicator lever, providing a clear visual representation of the remaining shots. As the weapon was fired, the indicator gradually lowered, allowing the operator to immediately judge when the pistol would enter its recharge cycle. Notably, the weapon began recharging after every shot, meaning disciplined, controlled fire could completely eliminate any downtime. This same lever also functioned as a magazine release, allowing the barrel assembly to rotate upward and grant access to the internal energy cell for maintenance in the field. The sidearm also featured 2 selectable firing modes: Standard, semi-automatic lethal fire, and stun, controlled via a red selector button above the trigger, accessible from either side of the weapon for ambidextrous operation. All of these for the fairly modest price of 400 credits. Now look, information on this weapon is small, so we can only theorize based on its usage and specifications we know about. At first glance, the DC-15S sidearm appears to be a compromise. Its rate of fire slow, its stopping power limited, and compared to standard Republic blasters, it lacks immediate punch. But none of this is accidental. It's safe to say the sidearm was not designed to overwhelm an enemy. It was designed to ensure that no matter the circumstances, the operator will always have one more shot. For commandos deployed behind enemy lines, ammunition is a liability. Every power pack carried adds weight, every reload is a pause, and every empty weapon is a failure state. The DC-15S sidearm does its best to remove many of those concerns. It guarantees availability. Even when the primary weapon is disabled, even when resupply is impossible, and even when the situation has already gone wrong, the pistol remains functional. This is where the recharge system becomes critical. The slower fire rate reinforces discipline, it prevents panic firing, and it limits waste. And in doing so, it stretches the weapon's internal power supply across the entire duration of an operation. In practical terms, the weapon ensures that no clone commando is ever fully unarmed. There is always another shot coming. Not immediately, not rapidly, but reliably. And in environments where you're isolated, facing attrition and uncertainty, having that insurance means more than just lethality. So, a weapon such as this wouldn't work well with your rank and file, because when there are supply lines, you're better off with something stronger.
What are your orders, sir?
It is unclear what happened to the sidearm after the end of the Clone Wars, as the information on it is very limited as it is. A theory could be that the weapon was still used by commandos that were still active during the early days of the Empire. But once the commandos were phased out, chances are these sidearms followed shortly after. Perhaps the Rebel Alliance got their hands on a few, perhaps crime syndicates used them to an extent. The truth is, however, we don't know for sure. What we can expect, however, is that not many were built in the first place. When searching for a real-world analog to the DC-15S sidearm, it's tempting to point to something like the Mark 23 SOCOM developed by H&K. Both were designed specifically for Special Operation Forces. Both existed outside standard infantry doctrine. And that is where major similarities end. The Mark 23 is an offensive pistol, chambered in 45 ACP, heavy and designed to deliver decisive stopping power. The DC-15S sidearm is basically a 180. It represents the logical extreme of a backup sidearm. In the real world, defensive pistols exist for one purpose: to keep the operator alive when the primary weapon is out. Our sidearm takes that concept and removes a logistical vulnerability: ammunition. It trades fire rate and stopping power for certainty. From there, one can almost go wild with real-world analogs. The DC-15S sidearm is one of the more grounded designs in both aesthetics and doctrine, making its points of comparison nearly endless, much like its ammunition.
The charge is set and ready to detonate. It's all yours, boss.
This blaster was never mainstream, and maybe that's a good thing. What's certain is that when you're all alone and low on supplies, you'd wish this was by your side.